Hello and welcome to the first Thesis Help webinar from my Thesis Academy. I'm very happy to welcome you, and I chose a topic for today which I think is important and also interesting for everyone from every stage of thesis writing. So it's the biggest challenges of thesis writing, how to beat the psychological challenges like writer's blocks and lack of motivation, or also how to deal with the multiple stress and organization in pandemic times. Before we start with the webinar, I want to say some words and introduce myself and also the idea of my Thesis Academy. So when I started my PhD in 2015, I had a long way until the end, until the thesis defense, where I could reach the final result of summa cum laude. And I experienced several difficulties along the way. I started with a long, extensive fieldwork in Rio de Janeiro, and I also hold classes at universities. And I could see in the constant dialogue with my students that there are a lot of problems, of difficulties in the stage of thesis writing, when you start a thesis, when you are in the middle, and also, at the final, in the correction. So my idea was to help the students to overcome these difficulties and support them to their graduation or post-graduation. So to the first webinar, I chose the topic of the biggest psychological challenges, and I like to start now. And the second part will be a section of questions and answers about the topic. So what is the program for today? You can see it here. First, I would like to start with an analysis of the situation of the reasons and consequences for writer's blocks, for lack of motivation, isolation in pandemic times, and also the multiple stress which can be caused by time management and problems with organization. So we have these three parts, but before we get to the solution, let's have a look at the situation. What is writing a thesis? What means writing a thesis? It is a long-term work that you have to face basically on your own. This is very important. During the writing process, you are surrounded and driven by a number of expectations from yourself or from others, and from stressful situation, and also from pressure and challenges. So how can you stay calm and survive the episodes of multiple stress? Start with the analysis and analyzation of the current situation. First, we want to see which are the challenges and also who is part of the circle of expectations. Then I would like to show you what are the resulting emotions and the warning signs where you have to press attention. And then we will have a look at the consequences for you and also for your thesis. So what are your challenges? First, naturally, your thesis. So the academic tasks, the qualified research and the academic writing that are expected from you. Then there's also the part of the time management and the self-organization, like how you manage the thesis, the related deadlines, and how to manage the private and the professional life. The third section is the work and life balance. So you have to pay attention on the physical health and also the mental health when you write a thesis. And last but not least, you have to deal with psychological issues which can come up from the stress. So how can you avoid lacks of motivation and also the worst form, the burnout? How can you beat writer's blocks, and how can you deal with isolation and loneliness, principally in these times of the pandemic? Maybe you are familiar with some of these phrases. You have spent so many time on your thesis. Why aren't you ready to submit? If someone is asking you, or if you ask yourself, am I doing it right? Others are so much better at writing than me. Then another phrase, is my thesis good enough to convince my examiners and supervisors? Or last but not least, something that comes up until the end, my academic career, my future life, everything depends on the result of my thesis. Yes, maybe those phrases are familiar for you. Now there's another part. This is the circle of expectations and of people who are expecting things from you. First, you on yourself, naturally. Then also your supervisor on you. Third, the university and the faculty members, also fellow students and colleagues, academics, and last but not least, family and friends. What can be the reasons for pressure? Because the pressure is not just resulting from your thesis and your thesis writing, but can also be caused by external circumstances. So first, there's a pressure from the official deadlines from university, like for the submission of your thesis. Then the reason can also be economic, like your fellowship runs out. You have several tasks and to-dos which have nothing to do with your thesis. You also can feel overwhelmed by all the different tasks and think like, I'm not good enough. This is called imposter syndrome. Another complication can be the suffering from a writer's block. Like you're sitting in front of the blank page and you don't manage to write something down. And there's also the lack of motivation and the procrastination and the moment that you may escape into distraction. So what are the resulting emotions? Also the emotions that you have in this very moment. You can feel overwhelmed by the tasks. You can also feel insecure, what I mentioned, the imposter syndrome, that you don't feel good enough. You can feel nervous and restless, thinking that you are writing too slow. And just change here. Then you can escape into, I have to go back here, sorry for the camera. Well, you can feel nervous and restless, like feeling too slow when you're writing something. You also can feel paralyzed and absent-minded. Maybe also unmotivated because you are thinking of all the tasks which are in front of you. You may feel guilty if you escape into distraction, and also alone, sad and angry, or desperate and frustrated, or anxious. Well, there are a lot of different feelings. And these feelings are not just the emotions, but they can also result in visible warning signs. So maybe you have some compulsive or addictive behavior related to food or alcohol or whatever, or you are escaping and distracting yourself with Netflix and social media and that stuff. It can also be a feeling of panic and aversion when you think about your thesis and sitting down on the desk. Maybe there are some body reactions like pain, like you feel sick or empty or nail biting. There are a lot of different possibilities. The resulting problems are basically that you can stuck in a writer's block or also feel isolated, with a lack of motivation and the episodes of multiple stress. This is what we will discuss today. And it can affect you also psychological and your mental health, your physical well-being, and your concentration, self-confidence, and also your progress. So now is the time for the solution. Now we know the situation, we know what can happen, and now we want to see how to deal with it. So this is what we can do. I want to share some experienced ideas with you from my own time of the bachelor, master, and PhD.
Begin from zero first. Repeat again, please, because now the people have a favorite connection.
Okay.
So
can we make the camera? Can we put the camera on? Because we can change it. It went out. So maybe. Okay. Maybe we can put it on here. Okay. Just. This is it.
Ya te he dicho que no funciona.
Hello and welcome to the first Jesus Help webinar from my Jesus Academy. I apologize for the technical complications. I hope that you can hear me now, and I'm happy to welcome you here to the first Jesus Help webinar on the multiple challenges of Jesus writing, or the biggest challenges of Jesus writing. I think I chose a topic which is interesting for all students from every stage of thesis writing. So if you are doing your bachelor degree, your master, or even your PhD, I'm sure that that you are struggling with some problems, some complications, psychological complications like like writer's blocks or lack of motivation and isolation in pandemic times, and that you also want to know how to overcome episodes of multiple stress. Before we start with the webinar, I would like to present myself and also the idea of my thesis academy. My name is Dr. Friederike Jott, and I'm the founder of my thesis academy. The idea came up along the way that I had from the bachelor, leaving school and doing the bachelor, the master, and then reaching my PhD. I started my PhD in 2015, and I had a very long fieldwork in Rio de Janeiro. I studied musicology, history, anthropology, and I also had to deal with all the complications and the difficulties that I think you are also facing, or that you know, and that's the reason why you are here. And along the way to my thesis defense, which I could finally do in 2020 and defend my PhD with summa cum laude, I managed to find some strategies and develop some recipes, some strategies of how to overcome all the difficulties. And our topic for today, which are the biggest psychological challenges of thesis writing, are really accompanying all the students along the way. So let's have a look on our class for today. And well, the section will be divided in a presentation, and after this you will have the chance to ask some question and get in dialogue with me. So let's have a look here on our schedule. So first, I like to start with a short analysis of the situation, which can cause phenomena like writer's blocks or lack of motivation and isolation and pandemic times. I think that we all know. And last but not least, I would like to talk about multiple stress and how to overcome these difficulties with good time management. So first, I would like to warm up with a question of what means writing a thesis. Well, it is a kind of long-term work that you have to face basically on your own. This is something that you should keep absolutely in mind. During the writing process, you are surrounded and driven by a number of expectations, stressful situations, of pressure, and psychological challenges. So the question is how to stay calm and how to survive this multiple stress. First, I like to start with an analysis of the current situation, or situation that can cause these problems. So we want to find out which are the challenges, who is part of the circle of expectations, what characterizes the current situation, which are the resulting emotions and also the visible warning signs, and which are the consequences for you and for your thesis. So these are some of your basic challenges. First, your thesis, naturally. So the academic stuff and the qualified research that you have to do, and also the part of the academic writing. Second, the time management and the self-organization is very important. Then, the work-life balance. So you have to pay attention on your physical and your mental health while you write your thesis. And last but not least, you have to deal with some psychological issues which can accompany you all along the way. So you have to learn how to beat or how to overcome lacks of motivation, and if you don't want to end up in a burnout, and also how to beat writer's blocks. And this is very important for today, for these days, how to overcome isolation and loneliness. So these are the basic challenges. Maybe you are also familiar with these phrases. Maybe from a friend or from your parents or whatever. You've spent so many time on your thesis. Why aren't you ready to submit? Or if you're asking yourself, am I doing it right? Others are so much better at writing than me. Or maybe you think, is my thesis good enough to convince my examiners and supervisors? And last but not least, my academic career, my future life, everything depends on the result of my thesis. A lot of pressure. So, another question is, who is part of the circle of expectations? First, you on yourself. Then also your supervisor on you. Third, the university, the faculty members, maybe also fellows and academics, and also the private circle from family and friends. Let's get into the reasons for pressure. What can cause the pressure? Because the pressure does not result just from your thesis and from thesis writing, but from a number of things. So first, the official deadlines from the university, like the date for submission. Then also maybe economic reasons, like a fellowship which runs out. There is also a list of to-dos and of tasks which have nothing to do with your thesis. And you can feel overwhelmed by the tasks, like, or feeling that you're not good enough, which is called the imposter syndrome. It can also be a kind of suffering from a writer's block, of what we will discuss here. When you're sitting over the blank page and you don't go ahead with things because you are sitting there and don't know how to continue. And last but not least, it can also be a circle of escaping into distraction caused by lack of motivation or one of these reasons that you see here. So here I listed some of the resulting emotions, like you can feel overwhelmed, insecure, nervous, restless, feeling that you are too slow, paralyzed and absent-minded, unmotivated, maybe also guilty if you escape into distraction, and maybe also, yeah, the feeling that you're alone with your thesis and you are sad and angry about yourself or desperate and frustrated. Well, there are so many possibilities of feelings. And also, there's another category, which are the visual warning signs. So it can be a kind of compulsive or addictive behavior to fall to alcohol, to whatever, and also distraction and escaping to Netflix and social media just to don't continue. It can be a kind of panic and aversion when you think about your thesis. And yeah, you can also feel some body reactions like pain, or you feel sick or empty, whatever. So the resulting problems can be writer's blocks and the moment of feeling stuck, also the isolation and missing, lack of motivation, and also the multiple stress which is overwhelming you. And all this can affect your psychological and your mental health, but also your physical well-being, and at least your concentration and your self-confidence, and can cause a feeling that you are not progressing. So now that we know the situation and what can happen, it's time for the solution. I would share some experienced ideas, some strategies and methods, and also some solutions, creative solutions of how to solve these situations, how to get out, and to learn what you can do. So first, let's start with some secrets and some tips for the start that I think that you should consider all along the way. So first, there were some studies and some investigations where the researchers found out that there are certain habits which are shared by productive writers, such as working patiently and regularly, writing with stable emotions, writing with a sense of fun or even discovery, and also that they are welcoming feedback. A tip that I can give you is start to write as early as you can, because already the feeling to have something on the paper can help and avoid to get into a writer's block or whatever. And then learn to see writing as a craft. So try to develop your personal style where you feel safe and acquire tools and techniques and strategies that will guarantee that you can go ahead. Then there are also some other considerations for the start, like work with constancy and regularity, not just at the last moment, but already from the beginning. Try to develop a firm structure, a daily or even weekly routine, and keep an eye on the deadlines from the start. Also, know the deadlines. Then it's also important, don't forget to self-care, because the thesis is not a sprint, it's a marathon. This you should keep absolutely in mind. Let's start with the writer's block. Well, what is the writer's block? It's the moment that you are sitting over a page and you are unable to produce anything. You see the deadline approaching and the time runs out and you still feel paralyzed and unable to write something. Maybe you are feeling desperate and you start to distract yourself with things that seem to be more important than a thesis, and you still will find excuses to not work on your thesis. So, what is important? The most important thing is that you keep on writing. The question is, how do you find a way in? First, it is important that you let go of the pressure that you have to produce something perfect and brilliant instantly. Instead, try to don't worry too much about the style and don't stop writing. Keep in mind when you're writing that you still have the possibility to revise and to refine. And if you are starting, then allow yourself to write also the you can say terrible first drafts. Allow yourself to make mistakes and to figure out arguments and your style along the way. What can you write if you don't write the perfect thesis instantly? So try kind of mosaic style. So write drafts, start with mind maps, write down keywords and bullet points and bits, pieces, so small pieces. Try to develop a skeleton for the structure, and you also can take the literature as an anchor. Like you can read and write excerpts, like make summaries or add some comments or reflections. You can write some small paragraphs and also write down spontaneous thoughts and reflections. This is a way you can find in. Then another suggestion is to write answers on some questions about your thesis. This is a suggestion by the Walden University Writing Center, and they say that first try to think about the message that you are trying to convey. Yeah, so think about the message of a chapter, of a paragraph, and try to note it down. What is the message? Then also your ideas. Yeah, think about missing ideas. Try to see it with the eyes of a third person. Imagine that you never read your work and summarize the sections. This is another possibility of how to get in again. Then another possibility is to overcome a writer's block by free writing. So maybe you can take 5 minutes before you start working and you write down whatever comes to your mind without thinking too much about it. You can write a story that you continue every day before you start writing your thesis. You can also sum up a film that you watched, or the last party, or impressions of the last walk, the last weekend, whatever. Important is that you keep on writing. And yeah, don't worry too much about the perfect sentence structure, the grammar, the spelling. These are also things that you can adjust after you have your skeleton ready. Something which helped me personally very much is the solution to go from sound and from memories to paper. I called it from sound to paper. What does it mean? If you are in the situation of doing field work, then I'm sure that you have a lot of experiences and observation and memories that can help yourself to overcome writer's block. Have a look at your photos or your recordings and try to describe and explain, try to remember. So this is also something, write this down. Yeah, get your material as a help for writing.
Then you can also overcome a writer's block by transcribing your audios. Take a walk and just record yourself talking about the ideas, explain your thesis, explain chapters or ideas that you have. You also can tell it to a friend and note it down, transcribe it, and note it down afterwards. This is also possible, or even with Zoom, for example. Then there's another technique which is called Pomodoro technique. I had a look on YouTube. There are even some music examples where that help you to structure and to realize this technique. So to do this, you have to set a timer for 20 minutes. And in these 25 minutes, or 20 minutes also, you keep on writing. You write, and then when the timer rings, you stop, you take a break of 5 minutes, and then you continue. And this you will do like 3 or 4 times. What is very important is that you stick to the time, to the clock. And then there's another section which is very important for the writer's block principally, which is how to beat distraction. So first, you need to find out what distracts you, because if you are escaping into distraction, then make sure that you know what is distracting you. Make a list and try to reserve some daily time. For example, if you are distracted by emails, by social media, whatever, by Netflix, take some time for this. Maybe write down in your schedule, but reserve this time. And when the time is over, then don't get distracted from this. Another thing which is very helpful is to put your phone in a flight mode during working time, because otherwise there will come up messages and whatever, and you will be distracted and out of your thoughts every 5 minutes. And something which is also very helpful is that you create a list before you go to sleep, or if you wake up in the morning, where you note down everything which is urgent, just to have it out of your brain and your mind. So now we talked a lot about the writer's block, and now I would like to go over to the second part, to the lack of motivation and to isolation in the pandemic times. So some reasons for this feeling and for this is first that with this pandemic times, there are some difficulties which we did not have before. Maybe you are suffering from a lack of time, you have no extra time, you have no extra help and no extra money. You have lousy Wi-Fi because you're working outside the university in some place where you don't have a good connection. Before you could work in a university. You are not costumated to work from at home. You feel isolated and alone. Maybe you have some projects that depend on the campus presence or also field work. And last but not least, maybe the supervisors are less available than before because you can't see them anytime you want. So these are things that can cause this lack of motivation and the feeling of isolation. The question is, how do you get out of it? And the key point is that you have to socialize. I put up some tips here, 2 key categories. So the first is how you can socialize at work, and the second is how you can socialize in your free time, because this is the most important to overcome this stage of isolation. So first, try to look out for peers, for fellow students, for friends who are in the same situation as you, and try to create working groups. Organize joint working sessions together. Then maybe meet at the library for joint working. This was something that helped me very much in the PhD time, because the feeling that you have others around you which are working is highly motivating and helps you to be productive. Then try to keep your goals specific and dynamic. So if you have a joint working session, then know in advance about your goals and try to reach them. Benefit from the dynamics of the group. And then last but not least, try to participate in symposia and colloquia and to set points to present your work with regularity, and also set goals for this. The second category is socializing in your free time. What you can do here is that you look out for communities such as associations, student groups, or sport groups. And I was playing in an orchestra and singing in a choir, for example. Try to meet for lunch or for coffee breaks with friends and with fellows to structure your day. And it's also, the contacts are the most important of all, because they avoid isolation and they help you to stick to your schedule. Also, another idea and another strategy is that you make your progress visible and visual. This is also one of my favorite strategies. Maybe you are suffering from the lack of motivation because you are unsure how you will continue a section or a chapter. So try to make it visible, turn it into diagrams, into post-it notes, to pen, and get a pen and a paper and write it down. Visualizing something can help, and if you like, you can also buy a pin board and put post-its on to divide like the remaining tasks and the tasks that are already done. This is something which is really motivating, because you can take it off and think, oh my God, I've already done all of this stuff. And you can use it also to you can use it also as a time frame for yourself to have an idea about this. Another point is that you don't stop doing things that you've always done. Writing a thesis, as I said, is a long-term process. So if you followed up some hobbies, if you make music and sports and whatever, continue doing this, because otherwise you feel like punished for writing a thesis. So this is important. It's also important that you take some time off to go out with friends and enjoy charging your batteries. It's also helpful to read some books which have nothing to do with your thesis, because otherwise, if you are just with your thesis, just working, you feel like life is passing and you are just with your thesis. And to avoid this, keep some time for you and for the normal life and the things that you have done before. So don't punish yourself. You will feel better and you will feel more motivated when you get back to your desk, and also be more concentrated and productive. This I can say from my own experience. So the third part is a question of how to overcome the multiple stress without going mad, if possible. So the key here is organization, the time management, and a firm structure from the start. It's also important that you have a favorite place for effective working, a place that you like, that you enjoy. And last but not least, it's important to pay attention on the life and work balance and on your personal well-being. So, what is the magic of the schedule and of routine and deadlines that we all love? I picked out a quotation, which I think says everything. We are always told about the importance of forming habits and having a fixed writing schedule. Stephen King has a fixed schedule, so does John Grisham. And even Hemingway mentioned the magic of firm deadlines. In his case, from the editor's board. So the key is that you stay structured but flexible. When you create the time schedule for your thesis, then the most important is that you stay realistic and set feasible goals, that you structure your tasks in small steps, and that you put some extra time, and also consider all areas of your life. I will come to this later. Start to create a fixed schedule for the remaining time that you have, at least for the weeks and months that you will spend with your thesis. And it's also helpful, something that I found very helpful for myself, a kind of 3 to 4 day rhythm to walk on a section or on a chapter. If you get very tired from one of the chapters, that you're spending much time on the literature review and you think, oh my God, I can't go on, then maybe select one theoretical part and one practical section and try to vary so you don't get so tired from one section. And this is also important, check and revise your working plan with regularity. Also, thinking about the deadlines. Also have the deadlines in mind. What is very good is to have a kind of 5-minute diary. This is another thing that you can have additionally to the post-it boards to motivate yourself, like a diary where you can write down what you did, what you have reached in this day, and it becomes more clear and more visible, and also what is remaining. Then, as I said, you have to consider all categories of your life. So first, a category is work and meetings. Maybe you have a job and you are writing the thesis like as a part-time work. Then you also have a personal life. So don't forget this, which includes also the time with the family, with the friends, and time you spend on your hobbies, for example. Then you have a holiday where you may write less. And the last category is the thesis or the dissertation. Note that time is flying and time is always short. So keep every category in mind. Some advices of how you can keep a time schedule realistic. First, which you already know, is the deadline. So know the deadlines from the universities, from your supervisor, if he sets some deadlines, and also the personal deadlines, like when do you want to reach a milestone. Calculate how many time you can spend on a section or on a chapter, and keep the goals specific. Don't be too general, but plan in small steps. And if you are occupied with one section, with one step, don't think about the next step and the next step, but really on the task that you are doing right now. And last but not least, what I mentioned, calculate some time, some extra time, some time buffers. This will avoid that you are falling into a rush. So one thing that is very helpful is that you choose a good place, your favorite place for working, and that you have positive association with this place. Because if you like the place where you're writing, that you like to go there and you are looking forward to be there. So find out, what do you prefer? Is it the silent library? Is it the coffee shop? Yeah, choose the environment that inspires you and that helps you also to concentrate. For example, I can concentrate very good in a coffee shop, but I know people who prefer the library because it is silent, there's no distraction. This is really up to everyone. Maybe you are also a person who prefers a mix, like someday you are very good working at home, and another time you need like a busy environment, or you need the quiet and concentrate atmosphere of a library. Well, it can be everything. But where do you feel comfortable? This is the most important. So if you take the decision of your favorite writing place, then think about if you prefer inside or outside, silent or busy, private or public area. If you prefer to write alone or in company, maybe also with or without music. For example, I'm a musician, but if I listen to music, I cannot concentrate. Yeah, so these are things that you should keep in mind. Yeah, what is distracting? And do you prefer the creative chaos or the ordered desk? Yeah, so keep this list in mind and think about what is the best solution for you. The last point that I want to mention is the well-being, the personal well-being, and the importance of taking a time out. So you need to relax to get inspired, and sometimes it helps also to step away from your desk. Consider that the real life events keep you inspired and keep your box of ideas full and enable you for the best writing. It's also maybe not a secret, I don't know, it's a secret that some tasks like showering or washing dishes or whatever, some task where you don't have to think or reflect, making the brain going on a kind of autopilot. So they leaving the creative side free, and the brain still will continue to work subconsciously. And sometimes if you're washing dishes or whatever, then maybe there comes an idea to your mind. Yeah, this can happen. To me, it happens when I go for a run or for a walk, then I will get the best ideas. So some tasks that have nothing to do with your thesis. And yeah, last but not least, some advice on how do you keep the physical and the mental balance. So I know it's very tempting to keep on working, to go past the normal level, but remind a phrase that I said before: a thesis is a sprint, is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And instead of passing your level, your feasible level of working, try some physical activity, some healthy food, and get some fresh air that activates the brain. So go for a walk or do some sports, play an instrument, cook, or even do some yoga or learn salsa, whatever you want. It's important that you have this balance, this work-life balance, and some free time that you can really enjoy. Yeah, put this time in your schedule or whatever, but enjoy the time that you have off and charge the batteries. So this was the class for today on the biggest challenges of thesis writing, the biggest psychological challenges of thesis writing. And before we will close the session, we have time for questions and answers. So. Wait. Okay, so you can put your questions and I will try my best to give you some helpful advice. Well, at the moment, I cannot see the question. It's like in the classes where I ask my students, so do you have any question? And it's silence. No question. So, okay, you have the chance, you have still the chance to get some advice. Or I don't know, maybe you have to reflect. I said it's like in the classes. Okay, so well, if there are really no questions, I will get the chance to thank you for participating in this session. I apologize for the technical problems, but well, the technique is not perfect. It's well, everything can happen. It's normal. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the session and that you got many ideas and inspirations, and maybe also learned about some new methods and strategies if you are in one of these situations. So I hope you learned something, and I also would like to invite you to the next post, to the next webinar, which will come up soon with another interesting topic. And I also would like to invite you to get more information and more inspiration on our blog. We have a blog from my Thesis Academy where you can find articles and posts about different issues and sections of thesis writing, like from how do you start to write a thesis until what is the thesis defense and how can I prepare for thesis defense. And I also produce the video tutorials where I explain the things. Yes, and if you need more specific help and support, then we also provide the possibility of talking to me in a one-on-one coaching or in a consultation. This is possible. You can sign up for 30 minutes that you get completely for free, where you can present me your project, your difficulties, and we can set up a plan together and see how can I help you. So this is a specific and a tailored point of our program, but there's also a lot of free content like the posts, the streams, the videos on YouTube. And well, if you like the session, I will be happy to welcome you to the next. And yes, just give us a like on YouTube and subscribe. So thank you very much for joining the session, and I hope to see you in the next one.